Let's go to the Cleveland defense here for a moment. C.J. Stroud went 16 of 21 for 274, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Davis Mills only threw it one time once he came in. But, it just kind of felt like Houston had their way with the Browns defensively. I give them a lot of credit for the way they played up front because their offensive line blocked far better today than it did on Christmas Eve when Cleveland was here. Hanging your hat, I guess, if you're Cleveland on, the growth you saw this year from Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think he's got a chance to be a star in this league. He is a fabulous linebacker. And, when you lose Anthony Walker, then you recognize how much of a blow that is. You need somebody to not just step up at that position, but to kind of try and fill Walker's, void in his voice, even more than just his production. And Jeremiah has quickly become one of the most productive, but also most respected players in that locker room. I think Cleveland fans are going to enjoy watching Six play for a long time.
Yeah, that kid's amazing. Some of the plays he even made tonight, and that was kind of going back and forth during the game with my opinion at least, was like, if the Browns can pull this out, it's because of Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Because at a point where the Texans were rolling, they had a bunch of big plays back to back. The game was kind of in flux, really, and it was like, hey, it was kind of slipping away from us. Jeremiah was trying to make that thing, trying to just take it back, and he was flying around the football field, and he makes tackles in the backfield. He covers guys in routes. He's just a freaky athlete, and he's the prototypical like new age linebacker where he's a little on the smaller side, and he just flies around and he makes tackles. He's physical and he's smart, and that's the biggest thing. He's just a smart player, and he's in the right spot at all times. He's fun to watch, and that's a guy where it's like him on every level. You have guys you can build around, right? It's Myles Garrett, and as long as he's going to play, he's your cornerstone on the defensive line. You have a linebacker now with JOK who you can build long term. And then on the back end, you got Grant Delpit and Denzel Ward and MJ Emerson, where you just build around those guys. You have those foundational pieces, and then you can kind of supplement them with others.
Yeah, and again, we'll try to get into maybe the future of this team along the way in the offseason. This is a little more gut reaction because, yeah, there are plenty of reasons to continue to feel good about this group and what they can build on. But you can't help but ask yourself the question today of, like, where do you go from here? Like for as well as this team played, especially in the month of December, rest your starters last week to get as healthy as you possibly can. That's tough. That's a bad result and a really hard way to go into the offseason. It stinks when you lose the last game of the year. You get in the playoffs, like, what the stakes are. You win and you move on, or you lose and you're done. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if it's the Super Bowl or if it's the wild card round. It stinks to lose, but it is especially disappointing when you have momentum going into the playoffs and just lay an egg like this. And I give Kevin Stefanski a lot of credit for saying, hey, look, Houston played really well. And I kind of get the impression that both staffs, maybe they put a few wrinkles in here and there, but like largely, again, gut reaction, watching Houston play, that's kind of who they were all year. They just did it really, really well today. And watching the Browns play, like that was their identity pretty much all season. They just didn't execute today the way they have. And so the margins of winning and losing in the NFL, man, are razor thin, even when the score looks like that. It wasn't a good result. But again, I thought Cleveland played hard.
It was so, like, this year as a whole, just thinking about it, it's so odd to me that on the road, this Browns defense, and specifically like the secondary, just was, frankly horrible on the road. Like they were just bad. You think back to Indianapolis, they were horrible. You think back to tonight, it was awful in the second. Like the places you can point, and I hate like talking in those terms because these guys are athletes. If I went out and played corner, like Nico Collins would run by me in a second, right? But like it's just like they're out there and you're like, man, like Denzel Ward or MJ Emerson, like, or Greg Newsome. Greg Newsome got cooked a couple times today, and it was like, what? Like, where are we at? What are we doing here? Why are these things happening? We knew that going into this game, everybody knew that their one guy who could beat you is Nico Collins. First 2 drives, he's got 2 chunk plays. And it's like, how does that happen in the secondary where you're well coached? You have a great defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz. You've been playing really good football all year long. And then we come out and we jump on a slant on 3rd down. And all of a sudden, Nico Collins is running scot-free down the middle of the field. And you're like, man, where's the disconnect? And why does it always happen on the road? Like, I know that like the dog pound makes a difference at home, but like where's the disconnect and why is this the case? Because it's really tough. And, the things that haunted us all year long came back to bite us in the tail tonight and was the reason why we lost.
It's a great point. And I guess I would go back and think about, like, not simply just black and white home and road. Mm-hmm. Was it a certain scheme that teams that typically we just happen to draw them in road games this year? Did we see something repeatedly on the road that was problematic? Kind of quarterback, style of offense, whatever it might be. We'll dive into some of that. Mm-hmm. Look,